Right, and welcome back to the Tired and Weary YouTube channel, where today it's Friday evening, well, nearly Saturday morning, and we've just got time to recap my thoughts and feelings about the Rotherham game for last weekend and predictions going into the Huddersfield game, which when this is uploaded is going to be in less than 15 hours' time. Now, as a Birmingham City fan, it's been an awful season, one that started out with so much promise and has really curtailed and just headed southwards from when we turn into October, really. And the season will probably be dictated by the game against Huddersfield. Um, Not the point that we earned last week against Rotherham, which, although on the face of it seems like a bad point, probably isn't the worst point overall, and I'll come into why. First of all, we are joined by Birmingham Salle de Mer. I've also not tried this beer. It's a brand new unfiltered premium lager from Birmingham with a hint of Italian sea salt. It's quite nice, refreshing, similar to the Peroni one that came out last year. Bit citrusy, quite nice. Yeah, I don't know if it's better than normal Moretti, but it does the job. It's nice, it's good. So into Rotherham. Now, on the back of Coventry, you're kind of thinking, okay, we're on something here. Things have finally clicked under Rowett. He's got the players going, the passion's back. We go into Rotherham and the setup's wrong. Ollie Burke returns to the side. I can see why, but it didn't work. Ollie Burke returns to the side and we go into the break against Rotherham 0-0. And we'll touch on the Ollie Burke starting. Rao obviously wanted some presence up front, and whilst potentially we needed it, obviously we've been missing Lucas Juke for probably the last 6 games, something like that anyway. And Ollie Burke, his physique and his power suggests that he might be able to hold the ball up well against a team like Rotherham, who might be more physical and less open than what Coventry were. We all know how Blues play. The reason why we struggle on the road is because we come up against teams that kind of they're less open, and we struggle against teams around us. That's like we've lost against Sheffield Wednesday this season. We narrowly beat them under Rooney. We've drew 0-0 with Rotherham twice just because we can't break down these teams. And you go into the game against Coventry where they're going for the win and they're trying to compete for playoffs, they're leaving gaps open, and we're able to exploit that on the attack, on the counter going forward. So going to Rotherham, it was never going to be as easy as what people thought, especially with the rehiring of Steve Evans. Probably giving everyone around Rotherham Football Club a much needed boost after the torrid time that they've had this season. So we go into the half time, and the second halves of the games in which Huddersfield are taking part in, Blackburn have already kicked off and are already well underway. So we go in we go into the half probably knowing full well what we need to come out with, and we didn't. We quite simply didn't. We had to come out of that game with a win, and we didn't. We find ourselves now in the bottom three, and things are not in our hands anymore. Which might also might not also be the worst thing. We might not. It looks like a dire situation at the moment, but I'll come on to the positives, and there are a few positives. So yeah, going into that two sets of two fixtures between Coventry and Rotherham, you look at that and you kind of think, okay, what would you take? You'd take 4 points. Now, it's just because that we got the 3 against Coventry and the 1 against Rotherham that 4 points looks more negative than it actually is. We got 4 points out of 2 games, so we're unbeaten in 2. Let's go. But I feel like the fight is somewhat back. It might not have been shown away last week properly, but I feel that there's something there. The players want to stay up. They're gonna give it all, and that's highlighted by the work ethic of club legend Lucas Jukovic in training, bandaged up more than ever you've seen on a player before, trying to get himself back into his back into some fitness anyway. Even if it's half fitness, he's going to be in the squad against Huddersfield, and he has to play a role. He wants to play a role, and it's the attitude which the majority of our squad need to follow, something that's been called into question on many occasions during the season. And now I'll pick on Dion Sanderson. Now, Dion Sanderson this week has been charged by the West Midlands Police for drink driving. Obviously not what your captain should be doing, not setting a good example for the young players around him. And at 24 years old, he quite simply should know better. He's now been stripped of the captaincy, and good. I feel like his performances will benefit from it. Similar to Harley Dean, given the captaincy role, it's too much pressure on such a player, and he might be able to play now with a little bit more freedom. Although, does he deserve to play? And I feel he's better than Mark Roberts, but with Huddersfield's top goal scorer this season being a centre-back, we may need Mark Roberts on the pitch, whether he's fit or not. We'll see. Dion Sanderson. Now, I feel all the social media kind of bombardment of harassment and hate towards him, saying we should sack him, get rid of him, is a bit unfair, considering the likes of the players that we've signed before and fully supported and got behind, the likes of Jermaine Pennant and Marlon King. Marlon King being one of my favourite players growing up when I was younger, and knowing full well his history, albeit a checkered past. And now Dion Sanderson, his drink driving offence, albeit, yes, very serious, and some people may be affected by it more than others due to their own personal circumstances and experiences. But personally, considering who we've hired before and supported, I feel like the hate was a bit unjustified for Sanderson, despite his poor performances this season. If the lad's got a drinking issue, it needs sorting. And if it's affecting his performances, then I'd say, yeah, we need to set him aside from the team a bit and give him a break, and let him recuperate and come back fresh in pre-season. Let's move on from Dion Sanderson and on to the fixtures last Saturday, which put us where we are now. Now, Huddersfield got battered away at Swansea. Absolutely mauled. I think their fans have somewhat given up, and we can relegate them this weekend with a win. 4-0, a 4-0 win. It looked for all the world like they were going to get something out of that game, until you're looking about the 70th minute where Swansea really turned it up and netted 4 past them, and 2 goals down, Huddersfield, they're gone. They're gone. Their heads are gone. I feel like even 1-0 down. If we go 1-0 up on the weekend, I feel like we stand a good chance. The problem is with us is scoring goals. And hopefully your big man, Lucas Jukovic, can have some impact on that. But hopefully before he comes on, we net a few before, because I don't see him starting the game. I see him coming on as an impact substitute, maybe about 70 minutes in, to give him enough match fitness to go again full pelt against Norwich the following week. And then the Sheffield Wednesday result. Now, Sheffield Wednesday beating Blackburn seemed like the worst thing like you could possibly dream of last week. You know, we've put in a great performance against Coventry. We've got a 0-0 draw against Rotherham. We've got 4 points in the last 2 games. You think, okay, we might be able to consolidate ourselves outside the relegation zone. But no, Wednesday pick up a 3-1 win over Blackburn. At 1-1, you're thinking, okay, let's hold that result. But a howler from, is it Anthony Pears? But a striker? a goalkeeper who Blues are linked with. Now, I've criticised John Ruddy this season. I've criticised Neil Etheridge for their performances and their mistakes. But man, that mistake from Pears really that tops it all from our goalkeepers this season. So no, I do not want him anywhere near the club in the summer. I do not want Blues to go and sign him. There's better options out there, and better ones than the player that could send us down to League One due to his absolute howler. Some would say match fixing, but the ghost of Chris Enkelman is really haunting us. Everything's power is trying to send us down so far, and we need something to fight against it. A Wednesday win. leaves Blackburn in a very precarious position. Now, Blackburn have, if I'm not mistaken, Coventry and Leicester. Now, Coventry don't have much to play for now following their loss against Hull in the week. However, I don't feel like they're going to want to lay down and just be walked over. I feel like they'll put up a good fight, and I don't see Blackburn walking out with another win this season. I feel like Blackburn, out of the teams around us, the four teams that are probably four or five teams that are threatening relegation, Blues, Huddersfield, Wednesday, Plymouth and Blackburn, I don't see Blackburn picking up another point. John Eustace has won 2 games out of 15, and his points, albeit, yeah, he's drawn a few, but his points record is very similar to Wayne Rooney's, and we all handed him out of the club. So, and I've seen Blackburn fans' reaction. They don't want him. They've got fed up of his togetherness press conferences after games. They're fed up, and he's failing to maximise the potential of Sammy Smodics, who's, yes, he's on 31 goals, but he's literally carrying that Blackburn side, and without him, if he doesn't score, the whole team won't score. They're in trouble. And I believe that Blackburn will be the team to take up the last relegation spot. I could be wrong. I hope it's not Blues, and I hope it is Blackburn to some extent, just to shut up all those Eustace fanboys up, really. Fed up of hearing him still. Oh, the season went wrong post-Eustace. Everything would have been fine under Eustace. Probably wouldn't have. We started off really well last season. We tailed off. We started off really well this season. We probably would have tailed off again. In fact, we definitely would have. So, yeah, I say Blackburn are going to go down. And on to Huddersfield. Now, I think I'd start Dion Sanderson alongside Bielik, who's been immense at centre-back, Buchanan as the left-back, Laird or Drama. It's a toss-up between the two, but I feel like Laird will start. He seems to be favoured under Rowett more so than Drama, who's kind of been frozen out, unfortunately, because he's been, before the kind of era of Mark Venus, one of our better players this year, and looked very promising after his slow spell at the start of the campaign, where he looked a little bit shaky. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see him kind of frozen out, but, you know, we kind of have to trust in Rowett for these last 2 games, and kind of got to go with what he thinks is best, and there's no point in tinkering around with the team if there's no need to do so. I mean, in midfield, I think you can't change what isn't broken. Look, like the game against Coventry, you keep Sunjic in that team. You keep Paik in there. People criticising Paik. Why? He's got the quality to be the best player in our side. He just doesn't have the players on his same wavelength. So Paik partnering Sunjic, Bakuna comes into the squad for me. And yes, his performances have been somewhat questionable. But you never know what performance you're going to get out of Bakuna. But against Huddersfield, his former side, he's going to want to turn up, and he's going to want... He probably will want to relegate him, because he's had to stick off Huddersfield fans for being inconsistent. He's had to stick off Blues fans, but he's got a point to prove. And I feel like if there's ever a time to prove that point, it's now. Bakuna needs to start. He's also one of our leading goal scorers. Talking about leading goal scorers, we can move on to Siriki Dembele. He harassed the Huddersfield right back last season, so much so I'm surprised he wasn't reported to the police, because that Huddersfield player must have felt, let's put it this way, very, very small after the performance of Siriki Dembele earlier on the season, now 4-1 win. Siriki Dembele has to start. He remains one of our top goal scorers on 6 goals, despite not playing the best part of the last 20 games. He's had next to no impact, really. And his attitude and his desire has been called into question. But in the week, he's shown Rowett in training that he can step up, and he's got something there, and he's ready to give it a go and give it a fight. Why not? We need goals, but we can't rely on Stansfield all the time. He's 19, 20 years old. Like, you can't rely on that on a young player to dig you out of every situation like we have been. So Siriki Dembele must start along with Miyoshi. Miyoshi shouldn't have been dropped last week by Rowett for Burke. I think he knows that and he accepts it. Oliver Burke won't play again. He got hauled off at half time last time, thank God for that. Miyoshi must start. Another one of our most creative players, and in a cohesive team, a good setup where everyone's on the same wavelength, I believe he can really kick on next year and show us really what he's made of. And he's shown glimpses of that this season. I'm confident about Miyoshi, whichever league we end up in. Up front, obviously, you're looking at Stansfield. I think Tyler Roberts might need a break out of the side. He's not scored yet, and yeah, he probably should have scored against Rotherham. Miyoshi should have scored against Rotherham. That we should have won it in the last minute. Miyoshi probably knows he should have taken the touch. Knows he had more time. He rushed his effort, and yeah, it's unfortunate. Am I going to touch on the Stansfield goal that possibly should have and could have been? A little bit. Stansfield rifles one in from the edge of the box. Lee Buchanan's trying to get out of the way. The goalkeeper had no chance. 9 times out of 10, you don't see those given, but the one time it has been given, it happens to be against us. And yes, it was the correct decision because Buchanan was impeding on the vision of the goalkeeper. But you don't. It just this is what I mean by things are sending us down. We're getting a bit of bad luck, and yes, it was the right decision. But as I've said before, those decisions don't get given every week. So yeah, unlucky. But we move on. We can't dwell on that, and we go into Huddersfield needing a win. They're gonna need the win because if they don't win, they've got a very good chance of being relegated. They have to win because if Wednesday pick up a point, they're gone. So hopefully that leaves a few gaps. It's hopefully a bit more open than the Rotherham game was because of that desperation for the win from Huddersfield. And I feel like if we are able to exploit those gaps, maybe score one, don't care how it goes in. It could be a scrappy goal, could be an own goal. Who cares? As soon as that ball goes into the net in favour of us, I feel like that game then is ours because the Huddersfield heads will drop. They're not. We moan about our players not being a cohesive unit, and you look at Huddersfield, and they are one team in a hell of a lot of trouble. And we've been knocking on the door of relegation for years. So have they, and in a much worse position. So I felt the opportunities there to go and grab one early against Huddersfield and see out the game and potentially make it a comfortable afternoon. But time will tell. That's my starting lineup for the game. Jukovic has to make the bench. I need to see Juke. For my own personal reasons, I need to see Jukovic in a Birmingham City shirt on the pitch again. A club legend, a true warrior, and a model athlete for the rest of our players to follow suit. If they all take his attitude and determination, desire for the club, to save the club, we'll get over the line. But not every player is Lukas Jukovic. And yeah, that's all I have to say. It's written in the stars. It's literally written for Lukas Jukovic to save Birmingham City on his last ever appearance. I can see him now scoring in the Tilson against Norwich. It's there. The opportunity is there for Luke. It would be poetic. Will it happen? We'll see, but I can envisage it right now. Scott, tell you what, every single betting outlet thinks it's going to happen. Only 6-1 odds for a Blues winning Lukas Jukovic to score. I wonder why that is. I think everyone knows his return's imminent and his impact towards the morale of the squad will be felt humongously, I'd assume. Going into Huddersfield tomorrow, I predict Blues to come out with a 2-0 victory. A clean sheet on the road, you say? Yes. And hopefully a comfortable afternoon. I don't know who's going to score, but I feel confident, albeit very nervous. And I'll be even more nervous come 4:50 tomorrow afternoon if we drop points at Huddersfield. It becomes a very, very nervy situation. There's a chance we could get relegated tomorrow. But we don't want to see that. We don't want to see a repeat of what happened in this infamous shirt. One of the best shirts we've ever had, some of the best memories that we've had, but also a very dark day for the club in 2011. We don't want to see that. We want to see we want some happy days, and happy days will come, but we need to get over the line. And that's going to come tomorrow against Huddersfield with a 2-0 victory. That's been my Rotherham review and Huddersfield preview. Hope you enjoyed. If you have watched it and made it this far and watched me ramble on for a bit too long, I thought it was going to be a quick one. Probably it just hasn't been, has it? Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Remember to keep right on and stay forever true to the Royal Blue. I'll see you again soon for a catch-up on the Huddersfield game and a preview of the final day against Norwich. Cheers for tuning in. Bye.